On this episode of the Naturist Living Show, nude comedians, Felicity, and more.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bear Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bearoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode number 59. So we're approaching 60, which would be 5 years or worth of shows. My name is Stéphane Deschênes. I am your host for this episode for the podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. And this is the September 2013 episode of the Naturist Living Show. Well, I wanted to let you know that we have an even worse concept than nudity now. We have something called implied nudity. And that is the reason that Facebook gave me for refusing my ad. I do use Facebook to try to reach people in the region because you can target very, very specifically. From that standpoint, as a user, I hate Facebook because the privacy thing is so horrendous and the advertising is so intrusive. That's probably going to be its downfall in the long term. But in the meantime, it's working. And as a marketer, I love that part because it is intrusive and because I can target people based on so much personal information about them. So it allows me to get information if I want to target parents, if I want to target volleyballers, if I want to target people who are into alternative lifestyles or whatever. You can do all kinds of targeting with Facebook. But my ad was refused, not because it showed anything, but because you could tell the people were nude, even though you didn't see any of those bits that everybody finds so offensive. And this is what bothers me. I mean, Facebook is already far too restrictive when it comes to any kind of self-expression that might have nudity. Anybody who's been involved in breastfeeding knows all about the breastfeeding issues on Facebook and how things get blocked. And it's not that it's even consistent. The problem is sometimes people get away with all kinds of things because it's only done when somebody complains. And to that end, it's pretty offensive, the idea that somebody would complain about something that they don't have to look at. Mind your own business. And even when some people complain, the decision as to what stays and goes is not always consistent. It's based on the interpretation of somebody who, from what I've read, is based in the third world country, most likely being paid $2 an hour to go through all these complaints and decide which is valid and which one isn't. So, what do you do when your ability to express yourself, your free speech is limited to such an extent? You say, well, Facebook is a private company and they can do what they want. And I respect that to a large extent. But the problem is Facebook has become so ubiquitous in the Western world that you have to be there. You have to use it. This is where people communicate. Imagine if the phone company, when the phones started to be everywhere in everybody's house, started to decide what you could talk about, started to monitor your conversations, and started to decide which ones are okay and which ones were not. If you don't want to hear from me, you don't call me on the phone. You don't listen to my conversation. And obviously, the phone company was not allowed to do that. And in fact, there was lots of limitations as to what they were allowed to disclose and when they were allowed to let people listen in. So I think we need laws. We need laws that when a business on the internet or any communication medium becomes so ubiquitous that you cannot be excluded from it. You cannot avoid it. You have to participate in it. When you reach that point, the standard must be much higher. You must allow free speech. That's what we're about in this world. And you can't just impose these incredibly limiting and frankly ethnocentric ideas of what is okay to show and what isn't. I mean, nipples and breasts are perfectly acceptable in certain countries, And in some countries, you can't even show mouths, right? So where are you going to draw the standards? You cannot have one standard for the whole world. You have to let people express themselves even if it will offend others. That's what free speech is about. And a private company can't be, when they really become the way everybody communicates, they cannot be the arbiter of that, what is acceptable and what isn't. I've talked in previous shows about marketing, and one of the new things I wanted to announce is that we are now in Google Streetview. Why is it important to be in Google Streetview? Well, first of all, anything you do with Google helps with your rankings. It's always good to have more presence in all kinds of things in Google, and I talked about that in the marketing episode. But in this case, I thought it was important for people to get a tour of the park before they came. What I've discovered is a lot of people have huge anxieties about coming here. We know why. We know what the main reason is. But they have other anxieties. What if you come to a park the first time and it's just seedy and horrible and ugly and the facilities are terrible? That's going to affect your impression of naturism. That's going to be a negative. You don't really want to go and spend your time there. So my thought is, now that people can take a tour and see how beautiful our park is, they can get rid of that one concern. And they can focus on the big anxiety if they've never been to a nature park before. And if they're coming from overseas, as we're getting more and more people from Europe, from all over the world. We've had people from New Zealand and Australia, which is about as far as you can come from. Now you can take a look and see the place before you actually commit to booking. Because, if you're coming that far and you're spending money for a week here, which can be fairly expensive if you're booking one of our one of our trailers or cabins, you want to know what you're getting into. So that's why we paid a photographer who is certified by Google for doing Streetview tours to do this tour and put it in Google. I think the results are pretty good. I mean, you won't see any people in it. It's against Google's rules. Never mind nudity. Obviously, that would be against their rules anyway. But it is against their rules to show people. If they do, they have to blur them. So they prefer to see no people at all. So we did it on a sunny but cool spring day. That's why the leaves may not be fully on the trees yet. But it's I think the park still looks pretty good. Now, just from the last spring to now, a lot of things have changed because we're always doing renovations. But I think it still gives you a very good idea of what the park is like. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes. We get a lot of correspondence at Bare Oaks. Mostly, actually, surprisingly, it's all very positive. People just have such a good time. They feel the need to write and share it with us, which, of course, we love and we appreciate, because that's why we're doing this. We're doing this because we feel we're helping people because we're providing them a way to rediscover themselves and nature. We try to provide the ultimate authentic human experience, and people get that, and that happens. And so whenever they get so excited, they write. It's so much fun to hear. Sometimes we see it in person, but often we get notes and things written out about it. So anybody who's written a review, I thank you, because it really does reinforce what we're doing and makes us feel good for the effort we've put into it. But sometimes we get complaints, and many of them are justified. We've had problems because of capacity with running out of water in the past, and things break. But I got a very odd one the other day. It was anonymous. And what's interesting about anonymous letters is they're usually written by people who want to come back, I assume, because why would you care if we know who you are if you don't want to come? I assume people are anonymous because they're afraid of retribution. And if you're never coming back because you hated it so much, then you would not worry about being anonymous. So this is obviously very regular, yet they're obviously very unhappy. And their complaint was about the fact that we force people. It's about the fact that we are not clothing optional, that people here have to be nude. Although in this case, they were actually complaining about the fact that we even had a clothing optional section, and that was ridiculous because we didn't allow people to be clothing optional everywhere. I still wonder why they came here, but I thought I would share to you. I felt the need to respond because it was obviously something that I couldn't respond directly to them because it was anonymous. So I wrote a blog post, and I thought I would share it here with you in case, if you're listening, dear Anonymous, then you will hear my response. And if not, I think a lot of people might appreciate it because there is an amusing aspect to the fact that people complain that they can't stay dressed in a naturist resort. Dear Anonymous, since you didn't leave any contact information, this is the only way we can respond to your concerns. Thank you for contacting Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. We do appreciate receiving both compliments and complaints. We are sorry that you were disappointed because either you or someone else in your party, you are not clear in your letter about who was exactly affected, were not allowed to walk around clothed. As you correctly pointed out, we did have a clothing optional area during our volleyball tournament, but you also found that option to be disagreeable. You should be aware that this is actually an unusual compromise that is made only for the volleyball tournaments, so a visit at other times would be even more disappointing to you. Frankly, we are confused why anyone would want to come to Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park to keep their clothing on. With 99.9999% of Canada requiring some level of coverage at all times, there doesn't seem to be any lack of option for the textile obsessed. And our dedication to authentic naturism is well published, so it should not have come as a surprise. You write that our policy has led to lost revenue. But we believe that it is precisely because of our uncompromising commitment to naturist values that we have been so successful. As Aesop, the ancient Greek author, said, "Please all, and you will please none." To give you a more current example, if you offer hamburgers in your vegetarian restaurant, you will not likely satisfy the carnivore, but you will definitely alienate the vegetarian. Ironically, naturism is not about nudity. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. But nudity is a key tool used to achieve naturism's goals of self-acceptance, respect for others, and living a more natural life. Since you sent us a paper letter, we recognize you may not be comfortable with using the internet. As such, you might be reading this on a bulletin board near the office. There is a brochure available in the office that explains why unmitigated nudity is important. But if you have access to the internet, you can also read it on the web. We are truly sorry that you did not enjoy your experience at Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. We are always disappointed whenever a person is not as enamored with naturism as we are. But we will not consider a clothing optional policy, as our righteous approach to nature's values is key to our success. We are encouraged by the fact that we get far more compliments than complaints, such as this email from a few days ago, which the name has been removed and it's been edited for privacy reasons. My wife and I have been to many naturist and nudist parks in the past 20 plus years and in the last 5 or so with our children, after having taken a few years off being busy with life. Yours has by far exceeded my expectations in the atmosphere, philosophy, location, amenities, cleanliness, friendliness, and overall experience. My child was very happy that there were other kids his or her age there to play with and hang out, and as a parent, I appreciated the very safe environment which your park provides. Your staff was the best of any resort hotel park we have ever visited, naturist or textile. I have yet to stay at a place where people are friendlier and genuinely care about the guests and members having a good time and being comfortable. As one example, when my child and I were loading up our car to head home, one of your young maintenance men, and I'm sorry, but I cannot recall his name, but he looked to be about 17 or 18, stopped while he was driving by and asked how we had enjoyed our stay. He then apologized for having been so busy and not having been able to spend more time talking to us throughout our stay. That is true dedication to providing a great experience. Another example was how well your other younger people, young woman number 1 and young woman number 2, again edited for privacy reasons, organized the children's activities and ensured everyone, young and old, had a good time, and that my child, being new to your park, felt very welcome. So on the topic of having a clothing optional park, which Bear Oaks is not, and I've been very clear about the fact that I don't think it's a good idea, I've just written a new article, which will be published, I think, in the French magazine, and I haven't submitted it to any English magazines yet, about my experience while at Montalivet. And I love Montalivet, and you know that from my previous shows, and I was there in September of 2012 for the INF Congress. Well, just before the INF Congress. The Congress was actually in Croatia. I was there in July for our organized group trip, and as I announced, we're going to keep doing that every year. And I am there in September this month for the INF 60th anniversary. So I love Montalivet because it is the birthplace of so many ideas and thoughts about naturism. But it did go through a period where clothing optional was very tolerated. And as a result, you do see a lot of clothed people. I mean, not at the pool or the beach because it's mandatory, but there seems to be a lot of women with a particular affinity for the wrap or the sarong or the pareo. There's different words for it. And so I was curious about that. And so I decided to ask a few of them to try to better understand why so many of them would be wrapping a wrap around their waist as they traveled around outside the pool and the beach area. And the first explanations were about practicality, and it made sense. You know, they'd say, I always have something to sit on. So it's practical. But as my friend Peter Allison, who was also there for the that trip that we had, said, is it really more practical to carefully tie and knot the pareo around your waist than throw them over your shoulder, around your neck, like you would with a towel normally? Or actually, since most of these women were carrying a bag or something to just stuff it in. I mean, pareo or the sarong is very thin and just stuffs in there. So it seems like there was more to it. And so I kept asking. And eventually some admitted that they were uncomfortable being nude in the areas, the public areas, because so many other women covered up. So see, here we see the reintroduction of clothing as a tool of embarrassment and to a certain extent shame. And that's why, you can't be clothing optional. You have to be consistent. If you're not truly confident, you start to feel that you're not following the fashion, that you're not dressed appropriately by being nude. It's very insidious. It sounds innocent enough in the start, but here is where you start to see it being reintroduced. I even heard from one woman who said that she felt more feminine when she was wearing a sarong. I mean, imagine believing that some cloth around you is more feminine than your own body. I mean, that's so. Here we're seeing embarrassment, discomfort, and men, of course, seeing that with the women. You saw the men, the equivalent was wearing shorts, and you saw a lot of guys wearing the shorts when they were with the women with the sarongs. Marc-Alain Descamps, I've talked to him before. He's a brilliant social psychologist who wrote many books on naturism, and he said that, and I'll translate and quote, the reciprocal visual bestowal of complete nudity diffuses the exhibitionist-voyeur relationship. In other words, if a person is nude in front of a dressed person, you can't get away from the fact that there's going to be an exhibitionistic feeling in the person who is nude. Not that they are exhibitionists, but they feel like they are being so, because the person who is looking at them is somewhat voyeuristic because they are not equal. There's no equality in it. It's created an imbalance, and that creates cognitive dissonance, emotional discomfort. And it goes beyond that because you also heard about social status, Nobody specifically talked about that, but you could see there was style and there was fashion, and people would I'm sure there'd be better pareos. I'm sure eventually wearing the right sarong or pareo could then become a sign of wealth and status because of the design and the materials. I'm sure that's on its way if you don't stop it. I'm sure that's part of that insidious creep of clothing when you allow it to be there. So, I mean, it was really impossible to figure out how many of those people had devolved, if you will, because we know that Naturism, of course, is an evolution, a better way, a higher plane of being. So how many had devolved back into a textile mentality because you don't know whether they were actually doing it for practical reason or whether they were doing it because of fashion or because they felt uncomfortable. But there was no question that being in an environment where people are generally dressed or most are dressed is not conducive to allowing people to adjust, especially the new people. So to me, it's like a virus. It's the sarong or the perio. On the surface, it seems innocuous, but as you can see from my interviews and the questions, you can easily reinfect the minds of people with the negative attitudes towards the human body that we're finding in naturism. It becomes that tool of shame, status, allure, enticement that clothing is in the textile world. So as naturists, we really have to be vigilant always against these incursions from the outside world. And we have to recognize them and stop them before they destroy our world by making our philosophy meaningless. Nudity is not the objective of naturism, but it's a very, very important and fundamental tool to achieve our movement's goal. So out of respect for others, we have to make an effort to present our complete, authentic, and open self. So hey, Felicity, how's it going?
Hey, fine, good. How are you doing?
Great. Just got back from France, and we had a great 60th anniversary celebration of the INF there, but we'll talk about that in another show. What's happening in New York?
That's awesome. We're just ending the season for naked stuff, but we're kind of ending with a bang because we just promoted this event that was a fundraiser for Artists for Israel. And they wanted naked people to be models for some live body painting at their event. And it actually caused a lot of controversy.
What, the nudity?
No, not the nudity this time. It was the fact that we were supporting an organization that creates art on bomb shelters in Israel. And they were planning to go to the Golan Heights. They are still planning to go there in October or November. And the fact that we were supporting this organization and promoting their fundraiser event. So it was mostly Jordan who was being the voice here because he is actually Israeli and Jewish. And so he was and he's very political, and me not so much. So I'm actually going to have Jordan on the air to talk about this.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah. It was pretty controversial.
All right. Well, let's hear about it from Jordan.
Hi, Stefan.
Hi, Jordan. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a little while since I've seen you last at Bear Oaks.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Bear Oaks, so I wanted to thank you for having us and for creating a wonderful atmosphere, which I honestly was surprised. I thought it doesn't exist anymore, so I stand corrected.
Wow. Well, I'm glad I didn't overpromise and underdeliver, so that's good. It's always a pleasure to see you guys. We had fun on the cruise, and we're going to have to make sure we keep getting together regularly because it's a lot of fun.
Definitely.
But it doesn't sound like you had any fun with this whole event.
The Artists for Israel event, yeah. You see, true to who I am and YNA was basically created with the nudity not being the major focus. I believe in a lot of social issues, promoting social issues, social responsibility, and a lot of the core values that I grew up with in naturism were just that. It was about acceptance, not judging people, sense of community, support. And that's basically why we created YNA. And so, true to what we believe in, we also support a lot of charities. And when they contact us and they need help, if they're a legit charity, and we'll do whatever we can to help them. So, about 10 days, the event was, I think, last week on Wednesday. And about 2 weeks before that, Artists for Israel had sent us an email and asked us if we were willing to help try to find some models to be able to pose nude while body artists would be painting them.
Sounds interesting.
I I thought it was phenomenal. The whole idea behind it was to raise money to be able to send over graffiti artists to the Golan Heights so they can paint the bomb shelters. And by chance, I grew up as a child in Israel, and I have had the pleasure of spending many a day in the bomb shelters as a child. So for me, I thought it was important. Plus, any way that we can help and raise people's spirits and support people, especially during their darkest of times, I'll do whatever I can. So I was very excited when they approached us. Now, usually I can foresee drama before it happens, but this time I have to say I was caught completely off guard. The second we posted it, just the announcement about the event, we got a flood of angry comments, emails. It went completely viral online. Um, it spawned off discussions all over the internet, Facebook, Twitter. Um, and apparently, a lot of people were very upset at the fact that we supported an organization that supports civilian people in Israel. They couldn't make the distinction between Israel and the people that live in Israel.
So none of this had anything to do with nudity or the human body or acceptance of the human body or anything.
For the first time, yeah, no.
Wow.
That
was okay.
Yeah, well, they didn't even mention that. That might come back later to bite us in the ass. But we'll see. We'll see what time. What time has to. What time will tell. Let's put it that way. But it reached a point where people basically flat out said that, in their opinion, I don't have a right to exist, and the world would be better off without me. And some people made a little bit more direct threats, which spawned my reply, which was me basically just telling them what I thought and why I thought what I did. And I told them that, at the end of the day, I'm not worried about these threats. It's more about the cause.
So help me understand, though, what was the issue? Because from what you said, painting some art on bomb shelters doesn't sound like there's no military purpose to it. So it's nothing. What was, they must have misunderstood. That can't be why they were upset.
That's exactly why they were upset. It's not that they misunderstood. They were looking. Some people just look for a reason to create drama, and regardless, I even started discussions with some of these people until I realized that at some point, some people don't really care about the truth. They just want to create anger. They want to create hate. And there's nothing we can do to stop that kind of behavior. We just need to get enough people around them to react in a positive way, and hopefully that'll change. But there's absolutely, I don't understand it. There's nothing that, because I explained, everything was explained very, very in detail. And if you go to our site even, you'll see that there's like tens of comments on both posts. I mean, there's probably like 30, 50, 60 comments. I don't even know anymore how many comments there are. And I honestly didn't think of it as a political event. I just saw it as people who might be a little down, and this is a way to bring a little joy into their heart. And I went a step further, and I told all the people that were pissed off at me and a YNA, I told them, listen, if you create an event for the people on the other side of the fence, and it's a legit event, and you're helping the people on the ground, I'll be happy to support that too. But they didn't want to hear any of that. So right now, it's calming down. My Twitter feed is calming down. So we can get back to our regular nudie business, hopefully, soon enough.
But that there is a naturist angle to this. Respecting each other, means doesn't mean you don't disagree. I think disagree is good. There's a lot of room for debate and discussion, and you can argue. Is Israel right and wrong? I think that's good, right? But
I believe that the debate is vital. We have to talk about issues. How are you going to deal with issues, whether it be naturism or anything else? But we have to have a certain respect for the other side and say, sometimes we might not agree, but that doesn't mean I don't like you as a person.
Yeah.
It's the whole communication issue. And we've seen it also, especially from the naturist community as a whole, where emotions get flared up, people say things, and they don't take the time to actually listen, and they don't take the time to actually think before they react.
Well, that sounds an awful lot like the textiles, too, who just say, well, it's wrong what you guys are doing in a naturist world, isn't it?
Exactly. And my question is always, okay, so explain to me, because I really want to understand. We can't make any strides in anything that we do unless we completely understand the other side. And if we don't understand their train of thought, they just say what you're doing is evil and that's it. We can't talk to them because we have nothing to be able to talk about. They just stated what they believe to be as a fact. But when you ask why, and that's a lot of times, I'll give you an example just from yesterday. I posted an image of movies, basically male breasts, which got me banned on Google Plus and on Facebook for a little while. But I posted it on Pinterest. And a young girl, she must have been a teenager, came across the image and she said, left a comment and she said, yuck, these are man boobs. It's disgusting. I immediately went back and commented and said, don't remember exactly, but I said, listen, you're talking about people. They have emotions. They have feelings. And besides the point, if you're a man and you have overgrown breasts, I'm pretty sure you have enough things to deal with or enough issues about your own body for the most part. It's not right. You have to respect a human being. And and we all have feelings and we all have to be sensitive to those feelings. And she commented right back and she wrote the nicest apology saying, you're 100% right. And I'm really sorry. I didn't think, and I'll make sure to be more sensitive in the future.
Well, I'm sorry that you had to deal with such intolerance and anger, but I'm glad you don't let it get you down.
Oh, no, I'm used to it. Somebody once told me that if people are shooting at you, you must be doing something right. So we've gotten it from the naturist side. We've gotten it from the nudist side. We got it from mainstream. So, you know what? We're just going to keep on doing what we believe is right. We have a whole lot of ethics and morals to guide us. And as long as we can say that we're actually doing whatever we can to improve this world, even on a small scale, then I can sleep well at night and I'm not worried and it's not going to get me down.
Yeah, so now you got the story.
Yes, that was interesting, a little frightening, because I like to think that within a naturist we're a little bit more tolerant, but sometimes online I think you get a whole mix too of people, and some are new and some don't get it. But it sounds like Jordan's not giving up and is not letting it get to him. So at least maybe he'll open up some minds, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Takes all in stride.
So what else is happening with YNA?
Well, we are actually redesigning our website completely. So within hopefully a week or so, you're going to go to our website and not even recognize it.
Oh, good.
It's exciting. So we're just making it, we're just streamlining it. We're making it easier to navigate. We're adding a forum for people to talk to each other. And yeah, it's a lot of improvement. So people can expect that in the next week or two.
And that website is where again?
And it's YNA.me, M-E.
In June or July of this year, I think 2013, I think it was late June, I was contacted by Leanne Maladen, and she represents a troupe or organizes bookings for a troupe of women called the Mary Janes of Comedy, who do stand-up comedy. And she wanted to know if we do any comedy shows, or we'd be interested in doing comedy shows at the park. And I said, sure. But you understand, we're naturist park. She said, oh, yeah. And I've been to naturist parks myself, and I think it's great. So, I think we'd love to perform there. And I said, well, you realize you have to perform nude. She went, oh, well, I don't mind, but I don't know how the other ones would feel, she said. We don't mind if you guys are nude, if we're dressed. That's not okay. I said, no, it gets a little weird. We used to do that, and now we'd rather not do it if it means that people have to be dressed. It just creates this weird situation that's kind of awkward for everyone. She went, oh, okay, I think I understand. Maybe, let me go talk to them. So, not everyone agreed, but she did manage to get a group of 4, including herself, to come and perform. And we were talking about doing tickets, but in the end we decided to just, I would hire them, and they performed during the Naturist Festival that was held in August at Barrocks from Naturist Park, organized by the Federation of Canadian Naturists and the Fédération Québécoise de Naturism, but held at Barrocks this year. And it was a pretty good success, and they had a good time. So after the performance, I sat down with the 4 of them, and we discussed what it was like to do the show at Barrocks. So why don't we start by just quickly introducing yourselves?
I'm Leanne Maladen.
I'm Precious Chong.
Paul Hutchison.
I'm Amanda Day.
So, how was it?
It was great. It was great. It really was not a big deal. Like, after kind of hanging out here for the day and getting a sense of what the people are like and everything, it was like, yeah.
I think we were in the minority of being first timers.
Yeah.
So I think if we all were first time, it would be a lot different. But when you have an audience that are looking at you and they're so used to it,
yes,
you can't help but feel comfortable. Yeah. So it was very comfortable, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Now, Precious, it did seem to affect your routine a little bit.
Yes, and somewhat. I mean, I was self-conscious of it, but I thought it was kind of fun to like have that new experience and try and like. Wow, that's a weird noise. It's fun to comment on what's happening, which makes it feel more. I don't know. What were you going to say?
And
Amanda?
I think that the audience responded well to it because I think they probably understood how you felt. They've all been through that experience of being first time nude publicly, you know? So I think it was relatable in that sense of like, you know, being able to have that touchstone of like, oh yeah, we've been there, you know?
So it's relatable to
yes.
them. Yeah, completely.
So Leanne, you first approached me and you said, yeah, do you want comedians? And I said, sure, as long as you do it naked. You went, oh, so how did that go?
Well, I asked the girls that are on the tour, and I showed them the literature. I sent them to the website, and they just didn't really, they weren't into it. They didn't get it. They didn't want to do it. So Amanda is part of the group that's touring, and then I was lucky enough that I know Precious, and we were talking at another show, and she says, "Oh, I'll do it," and I thought, "Oh, wicked, okay." And then very fortunate, we got a great host with Paul.
What happened was I was talking about it at my show, my weekly show. I was explaining how I'm going to be doing this show, and Paul was guest hosting for me, or you were on the show.
Yeah, I was on the show, yeah.
And he was like, "I gotta get in on this," and then messaged Leanne. Yeah,
because I'm very interested in. Because I've been to beaches where you're naked and stuff like that, but I'd never really experienced this. So I was very interested in kind of getting rid of my preconceived notions, getting rid of the stereotypes, getting rid of that, and kind of freeing myself. It's very free. Like, I can say that I performed in front of 60, 70 people naked. Like, not a lot of people can say that.
And you're okay, right?
I'm totally okay, and I look forward to doing it again. You know, like that's the.
It didn't hurt.
No, it actually was great.
Well, it's interesting. Like some of the material works better with your clothes, and some didn't. Like you're very vulnerable, like you said, that when you're naked, you can't hide. So it's a different way of performing. I found like it's you. Some things just didn't work in the same way. I couldn't articulate exactly what it is, but. What I found refreshing is that from the audience, and there's a lack of, they're not hung up on their bodies. I don't know how to explain it. Like some of the jokes, like I had a chin hair joke, and they were just like, "Yeah, what a big deal." Or the balls, like they're not hung up on stuff, so those jokes aren't landing because
they've seen balls all week.
They're not worried about it. So I found that refreshing and interesting.
Yeah.
Was the audience different anyway? Did you get any other vibe that was different, or?
Well, it was family, so it's not.
Yeah.
We don't usually perform it with such small children.
I'm very dirty, so I think I was very nervous getting into the more dirtier material, just because like I know these kids are right here. I know their parents said it was okay, but I don't really know. Like you never really know if they know what they're in for. So I was very nervous about like, oh, what if they think I'm horrible for saying this with children around?
And sometimes we have tendency, like when we perform in Toronto, a lot of the times the audiences know what to expect, and they're of a certain ilk and age range. What I liked about here is looking back, and I like performing in front of people that might not have heard what we have to say yet. And the different ages was great to me. It can be harder sometimes because you're trying to reach a wider net. But it's fascinating to look. Like, it was just fascinating to stand up there and kind of scan the crowd and think, there's a grandmother, it was just such a diverse audience, which is great.
Yeah, like I've been to places before. Actually, I have a couple of jokes that I didn't do tonight because I knew that they wouldn't work. One of them's about Club Orient in St. Martin, and that's a nude beach and resort and everything. But like there and at a couple other places I've been to, it's kind of like it's just a bunch of old hippies, right? Which, hey, I love old hippies, don't get me wrong, right? Like, but this club is not like old hippies. It's like every age, and I was kind of surprised with the crowd today to see the diversity in age, and
completely.
Yeah.
And it's totally stripped of socioeconomic is what I like as well. Right? Because I think there's something what Precious said, that when you take the clothes off, there's nothing
to indicate
you
status.
Can't, like the status becomes we're all equal because we're all naked. So it's that lovely, you didn't sense that, there's not that snobbery or sometimes that kind of elite.
Or judgment.
Yeah.
It can't be a lot of judgment.
Yes, because they judge you based on your appearance.
Nothing to do with naturism or anything. What I found interesting, though, is watching you guys clearly feeling out the audience. You know what I mean? Like you were talking about relationships in your thing, and I think that's what you're trying to do. Like you're trying to figure out, how do I build a relationship with this group? Because I could see you were adjusting, I think. Is that right? Do you adjust where is that fair?
Yeah, you do that. Yeah, you do that in all your shows, and especially like out of town shows when you don't know what to expect. Like you kind of get there, and like today you were saying, are you guys working your stuff out now? And you kind of get there, and you just look around, you kind of feel it out, and then decide from there, what's going to work and what isn't.
Yeah, because you hope to connect with the audience. you want to connect. You want to have like a conversation, a kind of a one-sided conversation, but you want to feel them like being with you.
Yeah.
So it's important to, I feel, to create that.
So why does one want to be a stand-up comic? It's not for the money, right?
No, it can't be for the money. That's the wrong way to get into it. Well, I think there's a lot of attention-based love. I think there's immediate gratification, and I don't know. It's who doesn't love entertaining? And,
I mean, I didn't do it. I dabbled in it when I was in my 20s, and in my 30s I did solo shows. But I was like, I didn't really want to do it. But now I feel like I have more to say. I have more of a point of view that I feel like I want to. It's a great vehicle for writing and for sort of giving your point of view about whatever it is. Whatever.
Yeah, it's a fun way, to express yourself. I've been an artist before, and I fell out of it, but this has been a very strong impulse to express myself creatively this way. So that's also pretty gratifying as well.
So was it different, the same, or easier, harder to do it in this environment, clothes-free?
I'd say the room was harder. Like it was a little bit harder at first being naked, but the room itself was lit, just open.
Right.
You could see the entire audience. There wasn't any kind of music in between the acts before or after the show. So it was a very you walk out and you're completely exposed, and you can see your audience's response to you immediately. Which generally, a lot of them were in the dark at other places. Well, so I
think that that's one of the things about it is this audience. I've noticed in Toronto, in clothed audiences, if they're lit, if the audience has light on them, they are much shyer to laugh and to respond. And I think that was a little bit different with because everyone's already exposed and doesn't really care.
So
lights are on, doesn't matter.
They're not self-conscious.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting. You talk about the audience, not about yourselves. So, clothes-free, no big deal then, right?
It really was.
Not if everyone. If I had to go up, if the audience was clothed and I had to go naked by myself, that would be a totally different
I would
ballgame.
be very uncomfortable.
Or maybe if the first time you're naked is you get on dress backstage and then come out naked. Having to, but because we had been here, we kind of got acclimatized. You kind of forget that you're naked.
Yeah.
And I think that the nature of stand-up is a lot of times you ballsy. Ballsy's not the right word, but that confidence level you have to be.
Right.
There is no net. There is nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's another challenge, and stand-ups are notoriously sadomasochistic. So we will put ourselves through the ringer.
Because if anything, even if it was a crazy, terrible experience, which it wasn't, but it would make a great story.
Exactly.
It's already a great story, but if it went, exactly.
So you're going to tell all your friends?
Oh,
Yeah.
And do it again next year?
For sure.
Yeah,
why not?
That'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'd actually like to come stay a day before. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Well, that's all for this episode of the Naturist Living Show. Thank you again for listening. And if you want to find out more about the things we've discussed, there are links to all the items that I mentioned in the show notes on our website, which is located at Naturistliving, one word, naturistliving.bareoaks, BAREOAKS.ca. My name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I'm your host for this podcast and the owner of Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. And I always appreciate receiving your comments and emails and notes, so please send them to the show's email address, which is naturistliving, one word again, at bareoaks, bareoaks.ca, because we are in Canada. Join us again in about a month for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bareoaks.ca.